I never check reviews. I figured if a house looks clean in the photos and the host answers quickly, it's probably fine. It was just a weekend trip, 5 of us. Old friends from university. I thought the only drama would be who had to sleep on the couch. We booked a secluded place near the German border. Big wooden house, quiet supposedly with private access to a lake. It was listed under the name Ruth. But the guy who met us there introduced himself as Martin. Said he was Ruth's son and handled check-ins. He looked normal, polite, a little stiff maybe, mid-40s, wore a faded blue cap and kept looking past us into the trees. Tom, our designated planner, didn't question it. None of us did. He gave us the keys, said he lived just nearby if we needed anything, and left. No problem. At first. The house was nice. Open living space, big kitchen, floor-to-ceiling windows. It smelled like pine and lemon cleaner. Someone had definitely been there that morning. We picked rooms. Danny and Mark took the upstairs bedroom. Tom and Lisa the one off the hallway. I took the room closest to the back door. The first night we grilled burgers and opened way too much wine. We sat on the deck, watching the trees go black as the sun dropped. That's when Lisa pointed something out. She said, "Wasn't there a light on in that house across the lake earlier?" We all turned. The lake was still, dark, and yeah, it looked like a house on the other side. But no lights now, no movement. Total silence. Tom said it was probably empty. We moved on. The next morning I noticed something weird. There were fresh footprints in the dirt by the side of the house, heavy boots. They circled around, stopping at the window by my room. I pointed them out to Tom. He said they were probably Martin's. Maybe he dropped something off. Then he changed the subject. That afternoon, Danny swore she heard someone in the woods behind the house. Mark and I checked. We didn't find anyone. But we did find a trail camera on a tree. One of those motion-activated wildlife cams. Mark thought it was cool. Said it was probably to monitor deer or something. I looked closer. It wasn't aimed at the forest. It was aimed at us, at the back patio. We decided to go for a walk, just to clear our heads. Danny wanted to follow the road Martin's car had come from, just to see where it led. After 15 minutes of walking, we found it. A tiny shack, broken windows, roof caved in, no sign of life, no sign of Martin, no nearby houses, no neighbors, no signs of anyone named Ruth. When we got back, the front door was unlocked. No one had touched it. We were sure inside everything looked normal, until Lisa noticed that her phone, which she'd left charging, was missing. We searched top to bottom. We even pulled apart couch cushions. Nothing. Tom texted the number Martin had used. No answer. An hour later, we got a reply. "Sorry, in town. We'll swing by tomorrow morning." Something about that message felt off. We hadn't told him anything was wrong. That night, no one really slept. We locked all the doors, closed the blinds. I kept hearing creaks in the hallway. At one point, I got up and found Tom in the kitchen, just standing there, not moving, just staring at the back door. He whispered, "There was someone on the patio." But when I looked, no one. The next morning, we were all wrecked. Everyone wanted to leave. Mark said it was overreacting, until we found Lisa's phone. It was in the oven, burned, melted. No one had touched the oven. No one had cooked since day one. Danny started crying. Tom said we needed to go. Now, we packed up, threw bags in the car, started the engine. And that's when Mark shouted, "He's here!" At the edge of the tree stood Martin, same faded blue cap, hands in his pockets, just watching. Not waving, not walking toward us, just Still. Tom floored it. We drove. We didn't talk much on the way back. Tom kept checking the rear view. Lisa couldn't stop shaking. Danny kept whispering, he had the key. He had the key. When we got home, we filed a police report. Gave them everything. Names, messages, the listing. But when they checked, there was no listing under the name Ruth. No record of the house ever being rented out. And the number, it had never been registered. The cabin was real, but Martin wasn't. That was 6 months ago. We don't talk about it much. The police said the locks were changed 3 times that year. Different renters, all off the grid, all cash. They think someone is using fake IDs, fake names, jumping from place to place. We think we were lucky because we left, but we left him behind. I live a pretty quiet life in a small suburban neighborhood. I'm not really the adventurous type, so when my coworkers suggested a solo trip to clear my head, I never thought I'd come back with a story like this. I rented a small cabin upstate. No neighbors, no noise. Just me, a few books, and nature. The first 2 days were peaceful. I'd wake up, make coffee, sit on the porch and listen to nothing but the wind through the trees. But on the third night, I noticed something. It was late. I was reading in the living room when I heard a floorboard creak. Not from my cabin. It came from outside near the back deck. I froze. I told myself it was probably an animal, but something felt off. The sound was too deliberate, like a step. I got up and peeked through the side window, angling myself so the light wouldn't expose me. That's when I saw it. A shape, a person, standing just at the edge of the deck. Not moving. They were just standing there. No flashlight, no phone, just staring at the cabin. I wanted to believe it was a lost hiker, but deep down I knew it wasn't. I slowly backed away from the window and grabbed my phone. No signal. Minutes passed. No movement. Then a knock. Not on the door, on the side window. The same window I was just looking through. I didn't look. I couldn't. My legs wouldn't move. Another knock. Slower this time, more deliberate. I grabbed the fireplace poker and moved to the bedroom, locking the door behind me. I sat on the bed, staring at the door, holding my breath, listening. Footsteps. Inside. They were inside the cabin. The front door was still locked. I was sure of it. They must have come through the back. The footsteps stopped, right outside the bedroom. The handle started to turn. Slowly, like they wanted me to hear it. I held the poker tighter, but then nothing. The handle stopped. Silence. I sat there for what felt like hours. I didn't sleep, didn't move. When the sun started to rise, I finally opened the door. The cabin was empty. The front door was still locked, but the back door was wide open. There were no footprints, no sign of forced entry. I packed up and left that morning. I never went on a solo trip again, and I won't. Not after that night. I've used Airbnb a lot. For work trips, weekend getaways, even long-term stays. I've always preferred it over hotels. The places feel more personal, more like home. That was my mistake. I booked this particular Airbnb because it was cheap, close to the city center, and had really high reviews. It was a small 2-story house. Old but charming, with a little front yard and a driveway. The listing mentioned the owners lived abroad and only rented it out occasionally. I arrived in the late afternoon. The host had sent me a code for a lockbox by the front door. I grabbed the keys and let myself in. The house smelled like old wood and dust, but it wasn't unpleasant. It felt lived in. Family photos lined the hallway, and there was a big, comfy-looking couch in the living room. Upstairs were 2 bedrooms and a bathroom. The second bedroom was locked, but that didn't bother me. The listing had mentioned it was used for storage. The first night was uneventful. I cooked, watched TV, and went to bed early. It wasn't until the second night that things started to feel off. I was lying in bed, scrolling on my phone, when I heard a faint thump from upstairs. That didn't make sense. I was on the top floor. I froze, listening. Another thump. Softer this time, almost like something shifting, or someone trying to move quietly. I got up and checked the hallway. Everything looked normal, but then I noticed the attic hatch in the ceiling. It was right above the landing, barely noticeable. The noise had come from up there. I convinced myself it was a bird or maybe a squirrel that had gotten into the attic. Still, it was hard to fall asleep after that. The next morning, I texted the host, casually mentioning the noises. They replied quickly, saying no one had been in the attic for years, and it was probably an old house settling. That day, I went into town, did some shopping, tried to shake off the weirdness. But when I got back to the house, something was different. The locked door to the second bedroom was open. I stood in the hallway, heart pounding. I was sure that door had been locked. The host said it was for storage, but now it was open just a crack. I slowly pushed it open. The room was empty, completely bare except for an old dresser pushed against the far wall. No storage boxes, no clutter, just emptiness. But what really got to me was the smell. It was faint, but sharp, like sweat mixed with dust, the kind of smell you notice in locker rooms or old basements. I left the door open and went downstairs. I didn't want to overthink it, but my gut told me something was wrong. That night, as I was brushing my teeth, I heard it again. Slow, deliberate footsteps directly above me. I turned off the water and listened, toothbrush still in hand. The footsteps stopped. I stood there, heart racing, staring at the ceiling. I knew I had to check the attic. I couldn't just ignore it. Grabbing a flashlight, I went upstairs. The attic hatch didn't have a pull-down ladder, just a simple push-up panel. I grabbed a chair from the kitchen, stood on it, and pushed open the hatch. A wave of hot, stale air hit my face. I shined my flashlight up. The attic was small, bare beams, insulation, and old boxes. But there was something that didn't belong. A thin mattress was wedged between the beams, a crumpled blanket, an empty water bottle, and a small pile of snack wrappers. Someone had been living up there. My chest tightened. I slowly backed down, closing the hatch as quietly as possible. I didn't know if they were up there right now or if they were out, but I wasn't going to wait and find out. I grabbed my keys and was about to leave when I heard the softest sound from upstairs. Not the attic this time, the hallway. I froze near the front door, keys in hand. I could hear the faint shift of weight on old floorboards. I didn't look back. I just unlocked the door and stepped outside. The night was cold, still. The house loomed behind me, every window dark except for one upstairs, where the curtain shifted. I walked quickly to my car, not daring to run. I felt watched. Every step felt like it echoed too loud in the stillness. Once inside the car, I locked the doors and started the engine. As I pulled away, I glanced back one last time. The curtain had moved again, this time fully. Someone was standing there, watching me. I drove until I reached the gas station on the highway, parked under the bright lights, and sat there for a long time trying to process what had just happened. The next morning, I contacted Airbnb and told them I felt unsafe and wanted to cancel. They offered me a refund and apologized, but that was it. I never got a real explanation. I thought about calling the police. But what would I even say? That I found a mattress in an attic? That I heard footsteps? The host never responded to my follow-up messages. A few weeks later, I checked the listing out of curiosity. It had been taken down. I still wonder, how long had someone been living above me, watching me while I slept, listening as I moved through the house, thinking I was alone? I don't stay in Airbnbs anymore. Hotels have cameras, lobbies, people around, but that house, that attic, it was just me and whoever was up there. And I'll never forget the sound of those slow, careful footsteps, trying not to get caught.